All right, recording, go.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the off week of Contributor Experience. Today is February 28th, 2018, for those keeping track. This is just a reminder that this week we will not be talking about automation or workflow. We will save that for bi-weekly meetings. These meetings are for people of the project, as I call it. So anything that has to do with mentoring, roles and responsibilities with an organization, volunteer opportunities, contributor guide information, anything documentation related, et cetera, et cetera. So we do have a full agenda. I know we have a lot of small items to get through, so we'll probably get through this relatively fast. George, do you want to kick? Well, actually, I'm sorry. Are there? I don't believe any new contributors on the line. Nope. I see all faces that I know.
I don't think Mario's been to this call yet, though.
Oh, Mario, have you never been to this call?
Everyone else, yeah.
Oh, why don't you introduce yourself then, if you're comfortable?
Oh, shut up. Telling my coworkers to shut up because I'm in the office. I am Mario Loria. I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan. I live a mile from George. I see him monthly at a local meetup I started called Orchestructure around DevOps and infrastructure concepts and people in the community. And I have kind of recently started to, come to these meetings and being more involved. So I look forward to doing a lot more stuff. I'm also on office hours as well. So yeah, it's going to be fun.
And we look forward to having you, Mario. All right, George, kick things off for us with the community meeting hosts agenda item.
Sure. So I'm gonna just stick the URL for the spreadsheet in Slack so we don't lose it in the Zoom.
Yep.
So this is the community meeting tracker. So here's what happened. We all went to a face-to-face, and then we forgot to assign a host that week. And then none of the SIGs showed up because we forgot to remind them. So what we're going to do is schedule hosts ahead of time, and I figured every Contrib X meeting, we will confirm the hosts ahead of time so that if we ever have an event or something, someone can figure out who's responsible for the community meeting. So if, Paris goes away on some Google retreat or something like that, the whole world doesn't fall apart. So Solly Ross is going to do next week, and then after that is myself and then Paris. And I figured every meeting we'll just confirm with the three, the upcoming three weeks worth. So I added that on the spreadsheet, and then the spreadsheet also has when all the SIGs are going. If you look for 222, that's the week we didn't remind any SIGs. So if you don't remind them, they don't show up. So I think what we're going to do is when it's your week to host, you're responsible for basically chasing down the SIGs. And I constantly publish this URL to SIG leads, and it's at the top of the community notes. So we need to basically continue to remind them that, hey, you're going on a schedule now. So hopefully we won't get any of the, I'm totally surprised by this. So so for sure we have to chase down the SIGs. Just assigning them will not work, I don't think. So,
George, what do you think about, I'm happy to do the late work too, so I'm not suggesting you do it either. What do you think about me sending out invites to the 3 SIG lead Google groups for every week that we have scheduled?
That could work, or we could just make it so in the hosting guide document that we use, we actually say there it's your job to chase down SIG leads. Okay. I prefer to use Slack or email. Maybe we could just make it more explicit or add a link to the hosting guide on the sheet, actually. So basically, it's like if you're assigned for that week and you're the host, it's your job to make sure that SIGs show up, unless there's extenuating circumstances or something.
Okay.
And then whether you use Slack or you email them, I think everyone in this group should know how to contact a SIG lead or knows what the list of SIGs is and stuff. Or at least enough where it's Monday and you can't find anybody, then by Tuesday we at least know, we're going to have to find people, as opposed to it happening 10 minutes before the Thursday meeting. So that's all I have. I didn't want to take that much time. Sorry.
No, that's good. Next agenda item is outreach for Meet Our Contributors and office hours. I did include the mentoring sign-up sheet, which has a tab for Meet Our Contributors. George, if you could, in the agenda, insert the office hours link for me. I just didn't have time to do it. Not necessarily right now.
Sure.
But I won't speak for George, but on the Meet Our Contributor side, we definitely could use some more folks signing up. Right now, we have a pretty standard set of people, and I'd like to have a rotating meeting. But luckily for our next one, which is March 17th, not March 17th, March 7th, which I'll put in here as well. We do have a full schedule, and we actually have a second time zone opened up now, which is awesome. So we will have, I think it's like a 3:30 p.m. UTC and a 9 p.m. UTC time slot. So that is great. That should get us most of the globe covered at reasonable hours. And then, George, do you want to say anything about office hours?
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt before George. Otherwise, I'd forget my question. Paris, you asked for. You said you had an ask in there that you need more people for it. Yep. Who exactly do you need?
Yep. So just a brief TLDR on Meet Our Contributors. It's very similar to user office hours, except it's just contributors on a call taking questions about things like, how do I contribute to Kubernetes? Where do I start? What SIGs do I join? Like, what's up with EDE tests? How did you join open source? Why did you join Kubernetes? And we take questions from Slack and Twitter. And it's about an hour. And then what we are also trying to do, which we can't seem to get enough motivation for, but a lot of people seem interested, is a live peer code review. This time, for one of the time slots, we do have a live docs a live docs review. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how the docs team goes through their tech reviews. But that's just the gist of Meet Our Contributors. So as far as what you would need to do as a person coming on as a contributor is just field questions.
Gotcha. So we just need more contributors involved. Yep. Is what you're asking, is your ask.
Yep, okay. Exactly. Cool. And it can be any level of contributor. So member, approver, it doesn't necessarily need to be like maintainer or owner.
I'll ping you after the call.
Yeah, for sure. And then George, go ahead with office hours.
Yeah, we also need developers to commit to office hours. So unfortunately, like, Ilya was the only person to show up in the Europe time zone, and Mario basically powered through the West Coast time zone because we were all at the face-to-face. So it actually happened, but I feel like we kind of let everybody down, by not chasing down people. So what I'm doing now is basically being more explicit. So I went back to work and said, I want us to commit on the schedule with an engineer. So if we could find people who are willing to commit to put it on their calendar, I think that's a good way to go, because the users are showing up. So we have to give them something. On top of that, the marketing team at CNCF is now actively tweeting. So I noticed they started tweeting yesterday. I made a blog post. They're going to publish it, all that stuff. We're going to link to it. So the CNCF is actually ramping up the marketing for this. So if those of you who work for people that might be able to commit, or you can commit yourselves, that would really help us out.
I just want to mention quick too. I mean, I was fine doing it myself, but we really have to get at least a couple people to sound like we know what we're talking about, right? To give that sense of we're giving you the best information possible. And so I will continue doing it, and George, let me know. I will help try to wrangle people, and maybe we just need more reminders and whatnot too, and maybe create a Slack group that I can notice as well, that we can ping people the day before and the day of, and I can definitely help with that.
Yeah. So that's one of those things where normally I spent that whole week chasing people down, and then we're at the face-to-face and it didn't happen, and it was just ugh. So at least we're finding bus factor stuff.
Sure.
And Paris, will do the same kind of marketing for your Ask Our Developers thing as well. So
I owe them a blog post.
Yeah, that actually took much longer than I thought it would. So
that's how it usually works. All right. So anybody have any questions, concerns, comments about office hours and or Meet Our Contributors, or maybe how we can advertise for this better? Like George mentioned, CNCF is going to ramp up marketing efforts around this stuff. So that's always a plus. But if anybody else has any other suggestions, we're happy to take them.
My team's still ramping up, but I mean, we could probably do some in 2 months or something like that. Once we actually get PRs in. So I don't know if someone can just point me to the documentation, but I can probably get a couple volunteers for April.
I gotcha.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I've got people committing as well for the West time zone. It feels like we only have. It feels like is our whole here.
Well, they're all in Finland, so Europe daytime would be great.
Perfect. It all works out.
All right. And then in the agenda, there is a link for a pull request that just went in. I'm actually looking to see if it was approved. No, it has not been approved yet. It's still open. This is removing the maintainer role and merging it into owner. So this has to do with the community membership. Excuse me, I have a cold too. I feel like I'm talking out of my ears, kind of. But anyway, so this is removing the maintainer role and merging it into the owner. So if you have strong concerns or opinions on this, you should most definitely leave a comment. It looks like Brian left several last night. And this is, again, just to reduce some of these barriers and also making our membership levels more concise. Does anybody have any immediate questions, concerns, or comments about this? So this would mean that we now have member, which is the first step on the ladder, reviewer, like code reviewer, docs reviewer, and then approver, and then owner. So owner would be the last rung. And again, this is all stuff that's being worked on, tying things and code to owners' files within the repos. All right, I don't hear too many questions, concerns, comments. George, you actually had one?
Yeah, it caught me by surprise. So I asked Joe, I was like, hey, steering committee, like you just decided to remove a rung just like that? And then I basically asked, how do we know whether something like should be posted to the mailing list or something like that?
Oh, yeah, I definitely think that this needs to be posted to the mailing list. I was going to ping Phil. Today.
So he basically said, we have meetings and we decide to do stuff and then we start pull requesting. But if at any time you feel that something's like a surprise, absolutely post on there. They're all the steering committee is basically saying, we're all approachable. If something like this catches you off guard, ask us to put it on the list and we'll do so.
The other thing of note is, so first I mentioned the maintainers themselves have an email list. It isn't very active, but I haven't seen anything on that with regards to this either.
I wonder if we can give the steering committee some kind of like guidance of please do these 3 communication activities when changing. Christoph, what do you think?
So do they have notes that they publish?
They do. Actually, something I was going to bring
why aren't those notes published to the users or the developers mailing list?
Hold on. They actually also record their meetings and post them to the YouTube channel. So all the steering committee meetings are posted to the YouTube channel as well.
I would say pick, these decisions are really important. I would say pick the most active, email list that we have and publish their meeting notes there.
Yeah, so they do, at the day after they meet that community meeting, they usually do an update.
So can I just jump in here? This is Matt Freiner real quick with something though. Communication hasn't been a strong suit around here. And so how many people are going to go watch the YouTube channels for what is probably a boring bureaucracy meeting a lot of times, or at least that's the perspective that a lot of people shares. And how many people are going to want to go spend their time reading the meeting minutes on what is going to be seen or perceived as a boring bureaucracy meeting with little movement? It might be worth them saying, this is a decision that affects you. Here is the executive summary on it. If you want to know more, go here and send that out to Kubernetes dev anytime this happens, because otherwise most folks are going to be like, I was oblivious. I ignored it because it's bureaucracy.
In other words, they should, very well said. Very well said, by the way. So they should be jumping up and down, saying, hey guys, this is a decision.
Okay. Right? I'll take an item to remind them on the pull request then. Also, when it comes to their meetings, I've been noticing as well, it might behoove us, as in the group, someone should, or at least watch the meeting, because a lot of the things they discuss kind of directly affects us, as part of contributor experience. So maybe we should run interference between the steering committee and everyone else to be like, hey, I noticed you guys are discussing this. You might want to run that by Kubernetes dev, this by Kubernetes, to basically kind of be there to remind them that, hey, this affects a lot of people. You might want to run this by the list. So, I mean, I always watch the meeting, so maybe I could just start doing that.
Yeah, I watch intermittently. I'm not going to lie. I try to watch when I can. I mean, another thing that I don't want to talk about it now. I want to sidebar it for a few weeks, is that we can transcribe videos. So we have the technology that powers that. So, I mean, at Google, and there's plenty of other APIs that will help us with transcribing videos and like podcasts do. So I think that we should definitely do that more and project wide. So like to Matt's point, not many people had the time to watch videos. I totally agree with that. So, all right. Any other last items? I put on the meeting notes that we're taking an action. Can steering committee post changes to mailing lists? Can they have like a communication pipeline process? I actually kind of want to set an issue with the steering committee repo to see if we can get them on a communication schedule, or if one of us from Contributor Experience can be that liaison and post everything for them. So let's talk. We can talk next week about what we've decided there. Next item on the agenda. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Paris, I just have one more comment on that. Just something for us to kind of think about. So the maintainers kind of rung in the ladder as it was prior to this pull request, or as it is today, is kind of like a two-pronged thing. Number one, there's GitHub permissions, so you get actual write access to the repo, which I think that's what the steering committee is trying to phase away from, is the need for write access to the repo, which is fine. But the other part of it is, like, it describes a rung in the ladder that somebody who has, a degree of responsibility around holistic health of the project. And I don't know if we move away from a defined maintainer role, that it comes with associate GitHub permissions. I don't know if we in Contributor Experience want to think about, is there a rung in the ladder? Because owners files are scoped to like a part of the code of the repo. You're like responsible for part of the code in the repo, as opposed to, a role or a rung that is responsible for or keeps in mind the holistic project health. I don't know if that's something that, if we move away from the maintainer's role as is, that we would want to consider thinking about, is there a place for holistic project health and people who are keeping that in mind and caring about holistic project health in core, or does that just not make sense as the world is today?
So let me ask this. Do we have cases where the owners and maintainers are different, where the owners are owners who don't care about the holistic health for a particular, say, repo?
Well, it depends on what you mean by owners, because again, the owners are typically scoped to a part of the code in the repo. In core, we have the top level owners file, so those people are definitely caring about holistic project health, but as is, those top level owners are also the bootstrap committee. They're all on the steering committee right now, so they're already caring about holistic project health. But again, like that idea of that role may not translate today. I was just throwing out the idea of, like, maybe we should think about that. Like, does that responsibility? We're pulling out the GitHub permissions bit. Is there a need for a rung that's caring about the holistic project health as opposed to their part of the code, whether that's, you know, network code or scheduling code or something like that.
Would you mind commenting on the issue with that? I think that's
it's on my list. I planned to write that down. I also just wanted to bring it up in this context because Contribex may want to think about replacing that should, you know, the role of maintainer itself as it is today go away.
I mean, I think you also just described us. I mean, as far as like a group of people caring about the health of the repos and the project. So I think you almost described our charter.
Well, you also described maybe SIG architecture for anything that would be considered core. Aren't they the ones who are looking at it architecturally of core? And then I think it may cross a whole bunch of areas here. Steering committee for the whole health of the whole project, right?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily think we're getting rid of that element. I think that element has now seeped into multiple facets of this project, like the SIG, like SIG architecture, what Matt said, like the steering committee. So I think there's multiple bodies of folks here who care about that now. So not necessarily defining that by a membership status. But definitely still comment. I'm very curious to see what like Phil and Brian have to say about that.
Yeah, I left a reminder for them to post on Kubernetes Dev. So let's see what happens there.
Okay. All right. Next item. Projects MD. This was checked in recently. This is the reason why this was checked in like this is to show folks our goals, including us, and to keep our heads on in an organized way. Folks have commented to me privately and said, oh, this looks like a Trello board, or, oh, this looks like it should be in SIG's YAML, or, oh, this looks, like something of the sort. So that's exactly, like, this is all of the above, essentially. We are going to change the headers of the SIG's YAML sub-project section that powers our README to closely align with these, which will ultimately be tied to owners files of docs that we own and I'm saying code that we own in quotes, because we don't necessarily own much code. I think we own like one piece of testing infrastructure, if I recall correctly, but that's it. And this is just a good way for us to showcase the work that we're doing. And if folks have like new contributors come to us and say, where can I help? You can easily point to this document and say, here's a list of our running projects. Feel free to reach out to any of those people listed. And then also an update as it relates to one of the projects listed. Elsie, the other lead for Contributor Experience, is going to be stepping up to be the product owner of DevStats. So a bunch of us will be helping her get ramped up in that regard, but expect a lot more finesse around DevStats. She'll be doing some user case studies, and really trying to make this work for our project. And of course, everybody that's been working on DevStats thus far, thank you so much for helping us with that. And we're going to, like I said, finesse that a little bit better. I am going to fix all the nits today, so if you have any comments or see any other nits or changes that need to happen, please do. And then I'll fix those today for one master nit change. Questions, concerns, comments about projects? All right. Next up is the charter. So the charter has been waiting review for a few days now. Kind of same story there with projects. I'm gonna fix any last remaining nits today. I did fix a lot of them yesterday as well. So this is last chance to update for version 1. There are some things that we're still to-doing at the bottom. One of the things that I actually wanted to talk to this group about to hear feedback is, how are we collecting feedback about this SIG? that's actually something I'm going to put on the agenda here. How are we collecting feedback from the SIG? Are we doing our job? Are the leads performing okay? And that's something that I don't know. I'm also getting kicked out of this room right now. Does anybody have any suggestions on how we should collect this performance feedback?
Are we overcomplicating it? Shouldn't it just be mention it to the group?
Yeah, I mean, that's a suggestion. So I'm just curious to see what other people say. I mean, I'm totally game with maybe doing regular surveys, like especially anonymous surveys. I know folks might not want to tell me to my face that I'm not doing a great job, but for reasons, but I still want to hear that information. So I was thinking of at least twice a year sending out a contributor experience survey of what are we doing, how do our and this is another reason for the projects markdown file too, of how are we doing against these projects? Are these projects something that we should be working on, etc. So if anybody else has any comments about that, leave it on the doc so we can do that. And then, hold on one second, I'm getting kicked out. George, you want to take it over for graph of the week, and then I'm hopping into another room.
Sure. So graph of the week for this week, Josh already volunteered, so I think we're good there. What's next? I've got the next item. So there's this company called Pensieve that sent me a mail randomly that it basically takes questions that people ask in Slack and then indexes them, and then there's like a bot that it uses machine learning. So if a new user joins and they ask a question and the bot thinks it knows, it PMs them with like, hey, here's some possible solutions. I sent a video of this to the dev list maybe last month, and a lot of people showed interest. But when they came back with pricing, it was per question, and I was like, there's no way that's going to fly with 30,000 people and Kubernetes users. So they're open to changing that, talking to us. So they basically said, hey, why don't you try it free for a few weeks on Kubernetes users, and then we can talk about that. So I posted some feedback in Kubernetes as users, and I think I'm going to turn it on today to see how people in there like it, and I guess we'll kick the tires, and if that's something that users love and it ends up helping and doing a lot of stuff, then maybe we can approach the CNCF.
Instead of Kubernetes users, do you want us to try a smaller channel that's active?
So
I was a thought.
Yeah, I was debating doing novice first, but the way they explained it, it sounds like the more corpus it has initially, the better it will be. So the way it works is it will sit in the channel silently, and then when it thinks a user is asking a question, it will spam a group of us, which I'll define, and then I'll say, okay, that seems like a good question. Index this one, index this one, index this one.
Gotcha.
And
it has to be an incredibly active channel, is what you're saying, for it to even work.
For the machine learning to kind of kick off. It doesn't kick in actually until it indexes 100 questions. So I was hoping to do that like maybe today. But one of the things I was keen on was like it needs to be non-spammy by default. So, the way she explained it to me and all that kind of stuff, and I looked at the video how it actually works, it looks like something that could be relatively transparent. And I think it might be a tool that we would give to people who sit in Kubernetes users and might see all these questions popping up every once in a while. And I'm thinking we would enable them, give them the bot powers to kind of manage the bot. We could crowdsource it a bit across time zones. And then as new users join and they ask us a relatively easy question, the bot will PM them transparently. And then I think that would actually help kind of funnel people into the right places. Brian Grant had some questions about like how will this integrate with Stack Overflow and stuff, and there's a whole bunch of medium and long-term things that we need to look at. But I figured they're going to give us a free 3 weeks to kick the tires. We should give it a shot. I mean, we'll see how well it works and then get feedback from the community. And if we like it, approach the CNCF about, I don't know how the commercial licensing works, but before having those discussions, I wanted to see if users like it. So I'll probably turn that on this afternoon.
Do we know if that's Slack approved, by the way? Meaning has Slack given guidance and said that this tool is approved by them?
So a lot of these Slack tools are just part of the Slack ecosystem. It's up to the admin of that Slack thing to enable them, and generally we don't turn on any integrations at all.
Right. So that's what I was curious about, because if so, then we should put this in the Slack admin guidelines.
Yeah. So I was thinking is if this ends up being awesome and we love it and we do it, then we would obviously add that stuff, because we would need to figure out a way how to pick trusted people to manage the bot, because I don't want to do that stuff. But
all right. And then going back to the charter, because I had to run out of that room, does anybody have any comments or questions or concerns about the charter? All right, cool. I just wanted to make sure, because I was super rude and ran out of that room. All right, group mentoring. We are currently in, well, actually almost complete with the mentoring test cohort that we have going on here. There's been a lot of lessons learned on my end about how to facilitate this. One of which I've been very vocal about, which is to not have multiple time zones in the same cohort. But there's some other things that we need to do, like curating more camaraderie and things along those lines. But I am in the middle of forming a new cohort. This will be new contributors to members. And I think right now I'm going to be it's not official yet, but so far Storage and CLI are interested, and I'm looking for one more SIG for that. I'm going to write up lessons learned shortly as well from, like I said, what we've learned. I know Chris is on the line too. He's been the mentor for COPS. Oh my God, wrong one. Chris has been mentoring COPS for individuals within that group. So I'm sure he can give some perspective there too. But we definitely have a lot more work to do, a lot more documentation to do for this idea. I do think it will work eventually. I don't necessarily think that the one that we're currently running is necessarily the most successful, but at the same time, this is new and uncharted territory for open source. So we really do have to make it our own. And that's what the documentation that I'm going to write is going to be about. If there are any people that are on the line now that know other SIGs that would like other either members, reviewers, approvers, please point them to this and point them to me. Questions, concerns, comments about group mentoring? I think everybody on this line knows what's going on with group mentoring, so I don't want to necessarily chew your ear off about it.
Scheduling's been the main thing, right?
Yeah, I mean it's hell. I'm actually going to go on this record right now and say it's hell.
Well, it's been hell for you. I don't know how you've been doing it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely hell.
I think being upfront with, I don't know, setting expectations that, guys, you're going to have to move around, or folks, you're going to have to move around your schedule a bit and make this a priority. So that scheduling isn't a complete nightmare for everybody.
And I totally
or just make the meetings, or just set the meetings. This is the meeting time. If you can make it, great. Otherwise, watch the video.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that goes back to the time zone thing where we should definitely set a time in the beginning. I was so empathetic and try to get this off the ground. So I figured we could do a round robin for meeting times and time zones and things like that. And it just, my empathy killed us essentially.
Nah, you didn't kill us. may have killed you personally, but not us.
Yeah.
It's gone really good in my opinion. I agree with with the feedback that you said in terms of more engagement,
yes.
Public engagement. I think there's been lots, at least within our group, there's been lots of engagement. The two primary gentlemen that I've been working with, so there's three that I have. One of them's been doing all right. Two of them just been doing rock star work. So,
and that's great. And
getting that type of results, I'm very happy with.
Yeah. I think that's amazing, Chris.
So, but yeah, let's figure out where we go next. And in terms of giving since I'm not going to be mentoring this time, so I don't forget, happy to do a workshop for you for the next group of cohorts that are the mentees. So ping me if you want that.
Yep. And I owe a couple issues right now on learning and development as it relates to each one of those rungs. Meaning, like, what skills do new contributors need to get to members? And this is something that I think also bleeds into like new contributor summit, George. But another just quick piece that I wanted to talk about with group mentoring is the concept here was like bi-weekly we would have some kind of workshop. And that workshop, for instance, some of the workshops that we've done so far is like a live code review session with Tim Hawken, where he went down like all of the, like an actual, he did an actual code review and like actually talked out loud about what the things were that he was saying and how some trends impact the review. And it was really great. And then we also had a communication session from Laurie Apple, who talked about empathy and talked about, what you say on GitHub is public, et cetera, et cetera. And that was really good. And then this week, we actually are having a testing session and a doc session. But my personal thoughts on this and some of the feedback that I've gotten from both the mentors and the mentees is that we should have all of those workshops up front. They should not be sprawled out because some of the information that they're learning would have been crucial in the beginning of their journey, like especially like the Tim code review piece. And that's sort of like what OpenStack does with their Upstream Institute, where they like require all of their new contributors to take a 1-day workshop course, and that like introduces them to governance. I really like that. Like, I think it's one of the best things I've seen in a long time, because then, coming out the door that every new contributor is on the same page, instead of what we have right now, where all new contributors are on the page of their SIG or their working group or their sub-project or their outside Kubernetes repo, which, I guess it's okay for that sub-project, et cetera. But from like the grand perspective of, like when Christoph and others are trying to change automation, that kind of stinks. So coming up with this learning and development portal is a part of this project, essentially. So that's where I was getting at with this. So now that I've talked everybody's ear off, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I do. Hey,
yeah.
Question for Chris. Are you recording any of the sessions that you're having at all? Do you do these on Zoom or do you do them on like Slack?
So that is Paris' question, actually. And all the workshops I think have been recorded, right, Paris?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We should really get those up on YouTube and a mentoring channel because I think.
My problem with that, though, is like, especially the Laurie Apple session, I think some of the people that were responding to her were responding from very honest takes. I mean, I will gladly ask everyone if they're comfortable with publishing this to YouTube, but she was asking some very personal questions, like, tell me about a time when somebody was not nice to you on a GitHub comment, and like, how are they not nice to you? In that kind of fashion.
Yeah, maybe where it's appropriate, right? If it's a workflow session, maybe, but like
the code review session for sure.
Yeah.
Because that's like gold.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yeah. Holler at me. I could create a playlist trivially, so let me know.
Yeah.
And I did ask. Go ahead.
No, go.
I was just going to say, I did ask Clayton to do a 102 session as well. So Clayton's on, I just need to hear back from him on that. I'd like to ask every steering committee member, essentially founders, to do a session on something so that we could have a brain dump in some area. And I think that would work really well for us too. Because then again, we can build docs around the stuff that they're brain dumping.
No, it's a brilliant idea.
All All right.
Oh, my ask, Paris. Can we pick a bloody name officially, please?
Oh God, I know it's going to be the definition point.
Just pick it. Like literally, don't wait for marketing. Like just say, "Hey, Sarah, can we pick this, please, officially, so we can start getting swag and stuff like that." I really want a T-shirt. Damn it!
Does anybody have any? Does anybody have any name suggestions for a Kubernetes mentor? Like, I love Kubernetes, but that's taken by some commercial / nonprofit organization. Eeyore's not even on the line anymore.
So the goofy name I came up with, just to let everybody know, is Kubernetes pilots, as in harbor pilots.
Yeah,
we're helping them steer the ship into the harbor. So that was the goofy name I picked. Not married to it.
And it's not necessarily goofy. It's just that every time I tell people that, they think that they're piloting Kubernetes. So like, hey, we're going to try out, test drive Kubernetes, not necessarily like, because in the world of testing, you're piloting something. So that's the feedback that we've been getting. I mean, some people love it. Some people are like indifferent. So I guess in the back of everybody's heads between now and the next week, think of other names. We actually do have a few on a very old doc, like admiral and some other like Greek terms of leading coach with a K. We gotta watch the K stuff, by the way. But anyway,
K's too cheesy now. It's overplayed. We can't.
I guess. Yeah.
Sadev, did you say something?
Yeah, no, I mean, just a minor thing there. I think we need a name which is more like a self, entity, right? Self-describable, that what it is, right?
Yeah.
Something, just look at the name and say, hey, this is for mentoring. So I think not like fancy name, but just very simple name, which gives idea.
Kubernetes mentoring.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
Cube mentoring or something.
Program or,
Yeah,
exactly.
All right. And then
there you go.
There you go,
Paris. There's another name. KMP, Kubernetes Mentoring Program.
Yep.
KMP. Yeah, that could be it. I mean, I'm just envisioning like something like Docker captains. I mean, Docker captains are evangelists. They're not mentors.
Yeah, that is a cool name, though. They definitely.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not necessarily, like I said, that's not necessarily the mission of what we're trying to do. I mean, if people want to evangelize, then
because when it sounds cool, people are proud of it, right? I'm a Docker captain. Ooh,
Yeah, exactly. So that's what. Maybe maybe we should do a survey.
I'll put some thought into this.
Yeah, we can throw some names on a list and see if people give a crap. So, like, let's try it.
The give a crap is we've been doing this for 6 months now, Paris.
No
7
way.
months?
I've been here for 6 months.
Yeah, we started with this program right after you started.
Yeah, we started talking about it, but we didn't start. I feel like
still haven't picked a name.
It's all about content. It's all about content.
It is. All right. That's all I had today, except for the roadshow working session. And what I'm trying to do here is come up with the template of the roadshow. So if folks do not care about the roadshow or not going on the roadshow, then if you'd like to drop, feel free. For those who don't know what the roadshow is, that is an opportunity for Contributor Experience to go to each SIG and working group meeting and get on their agenda and fill them in with quite a few things, actually, to get everybody on the same page with what's going on in Contributor Experience, how they can help us, and the feedback that we get from them to take back to this. We'll do that once a quarter, and right now we already have assignees for every SIG and working group, so everybody's ready to go. We just need to get this template together, and the template is the talking points, and also it'll just be a copy and paste that'll go right into their agenda. So if you do not want to help with this, we have about 10 minutes left, and I'd really like to work on this because I want to ship this today. George, you want to stay on the line?
Sure.
And like I said, if anybody else wants to stay on the line, I'll share the doc with you and we can we can go through it. Cool. All right. So let me share the doc here.
Okay. I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be back for your review.
All right. Let's see. Roadshow. Contrivex Roadshow. Here we go. Share. Shareable link. All right. And let me know if you, I did create that from my Google account. So if you need perms, let me know.
I know you said Paris, so we can sort of step out, but you just need some review here, right? Is that what you said?
Yep. And it looks like Sadev, we do need a few more SIGs actually covered. I don't know if you're interested in doing this, but like I said, it would just be going to that SIG and saying that you're a member of Contributor Experience, and then the script that's on the that's in the other tab that says script next to SIGs. This is what will be polished up and sent with you to their agenda. So then all you're going to do is copy and paste this on their agenda. It'll have like links to the stuff, and then you'll go through each talking point with them so that everybody that's going to each one of these SIGs is talking about the same things. So for instance, one of them is issue triage. So like, what do we want to tell them about issue triage? And mind you, we'll most likely have maybe 10 minutes to go through all of these things. So it's just a high level of what this is, and then the docs to explain it further, and then get any like high level questions from them that they might have. So if you could actually, if you could work on line 3, in the script area, that would be awesome, because I know you've been doing a lot with issue triage and looking for feedback.
Yeah. No, absolutely, Paris. And I'm looking at the docs, so I think, I'm sorry, I think I wasn't aware of it before, but the way I understood is basically we represent country backs at this one particular, or one of these SIGs, and sort of brief about what we're doing, right? So in my case, say I can brief over this triage, right? That sounds good. Yeah. And is that going to be all the SIGs, or we just taking turn on the SIGs? Or
all of the SIGs, every SIG that we have. So right now we're going to be going to 38 meetings.
How often we'll be doing this? I mean, I think
quarterly.
We don't need every quarterly. Okay.
Yep, we'll do this quarterly. But the thing is, we're not going to get into a habit of releasing stuff based off of when we go to these meetings. We're still doing business as usual. We're still pumping out work. So let's scrub this up a little bit. All right, Sadev, you have number 3. So like I said, include on line 3, include the issue triage links that you want feedback on, and anything that you think that people should have from a documentation perspective there. I will take line 4. And then the other thing too, Sadev, is that we all have to be comfortable talking about every one of these issues at a very high level. So for instance, for mentoring strategy, what we should be doing is asking them, how are you growing your current contributors? Do you have a strategy? Like, that's what we want to know. And then of course, how can we plug you into what we're already doing? And the what we're already doing piece is going to highlight things like meet our contributors. Why don't you send a contributor to this? This is like learning on demand. Also, the group mentoring pieces, educating them on that we have this group mentoring strategy now, and it's 4-on-1 in a group. Mentors share time burdens. This is all about sharing time. And like I said, you don't have to go into all of these things in detail, but we're going to have I'm going to include all of the docs links on there. But you definitely need to be comfortable with talking about this stuff. And then, of course, do they understand all the changes to bots, commands, and labels that we've been going through? And then we'll list right there some of the stuff like the LGTM comments that have been going on in KDev, etc. And then Slack finessing for their groups, which is something that I've been doing sort of like one-on-one, telling them that they should be pinning things to their Slack now. People are using Slack a lot more. I mean, we have the data that shows it. I see the Slack analytics. So we should be doing more than we can with Slack. So for instance, pinning the agenda meeting notes to the Slack, pinning the Slack guidelines, which advocates for people to join the Slack admins channel, and then important links from the mailing list. And then let's see, KubeCon is done. So I'm actually going to go ahead and delete row 7.
Hi, sorry to interrupt, but as George said, I also see the spreadsheet.
I think I'm on the wrong document.
Are you on
the link you shared? Yeah.
Oh, whoops.
Oh, I only saw the sign-up sheet. Yeah, I'm on the wrong. I'm digging in the wrong place.
You're on the tab. Go to the tab for script. It's at the bottom. Like it says SIGs, and then it says script.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Oh, that was the whole time.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
The magic of tabs. Woo!
Yep.
So that's the script. So this is what we're finessing today. And this is what I'm getting out. Like literally the first thing I have on my priority list today is shipping this. So by that,
we need to add KEPs, explain the KEP process to people. And if that's something where we need to have someone from SIG Arch show up at Contribex and tell us what to tell people, then that would work. But I feel like there's a lot of, like when we got our first KEP, I had no idea what to do.
Yeah, I know. I had no idea either. Like, I mean, I only half know still.
Like Joe explained it to me yesterday, but like I feel like all SIGs should get that, you know?
Yeah. All right, George, stop recording too. We're going to go ahead and...
Oh, nuts. Okay.